guys, welcome to Brian's Man Cave. So, I did a video back in 2019, which is, what, 20, 21, 22, 3 years ago, talking about the cost of nostalgia. And it was a topic that interested me at the time because I started to notice these things always popping up in stores, you know, reissues, as I was talking about in that previous video. You know, things like the Transformers toys that I played with when I was a kid. They started to reissue them and sell them at, you know, fairly reasonable prices. But then what was happening was people were snatching them all up and reselling them online for double, triple, crazy, quadruple the prices. And at the same time, we had these guys coming out, the Flashbacks. So I got myself, I ended up picking up only two of these little systems, the Flashback ColecoVision, and I got one of the Atari Flashbacks. This is the 8. I think we're up to like 10 now, since, you know, when I did that video, I think they had 9 coming out, or 9 was just got released. We have like 10, I think maybe even higher than that. I kind of lost count. Because these things, you know, they've been popping up from now, like for the last few years. And we had a lot more come out since then. We had the Super Nintendo, the little SNES, the Commodore 64. There was a little Commodore 64, which was kind of neat. I like that one. There's actually 2 versions on the market now. There's one that actually has a functioning keyboard. The thing looks like a real Commodore 64. Whereas the other one had a fake, you know, it was a smaller item. It was a, you know, it had a fake keyboard, but it did the same job. It was an emulation device. And let's be real, that's what these things are. They're emulation devices. They're cool. I mean, I like the idea that they brought these things out. And, you know, from what I gather what these things are supposed to be for, at least in my brain, it's for people like me, like you, and like the average person who grew up in the 80s and had a ColecoVision. And it's not easy to, if you want to relive those days, to sit there and buy a original ColecoVision and get all the games, because of course the cost, the setting up of the system. A lot of people don't even know how to set these. If they bought an original ColecoVision, say they went to a yard sale and they picked up an original ColecoVision and brought it home all excited, and then tried to hook it up to their flat screen 55-inch Samsung TV. They probably wouldn't know what to do. And if the games didn't work, or if they put the games in, even if they did hook it up and all they were getting is static, you know, that kind of thing. But, you know, that's only if you're lucky. A lot of this stuff is, you know, the actual real collectible stuff, the original stuff. It's kind of hard to find. It's hard to find. It's hard to find in good shape, in working order. I mean, you have to think about, some of these things are like 35 plus years old, almost 40. I guess some of them could be 40, depending on which system we're talking about. Obviously, the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo and the PlayStation, all those kind of came out a little bit later on. So, you know, it's probably a little bit easier to find yourself an actual Nintendo. But you are going to still run into the problems, like you need to have the RCA connectors and all that other stuff. And I constantly see that on posts, you know, people asking, how do I hook this up to my TV? So these things were a great answer to that, because a lot of them are very simple. So I think most of them are RCA hookups, well, actually some of them, I think the Nintendo one was an HDMI. Very easy to hook that thing up to a modern TV, and you get your little excitement out of it. Now the question is, should these things be collectible? Should they be expensive? Now, a buddy of mine, Jason Rushing, actually approached me on Facebook, because I guess he was trying to find, I don't know which one he was looking for. I don't know if it's this, or I think he was looking for the Intellivision one. That's one I never got. I never saw it in the store. And he just kind of briefly mentioned, he's like, dude, did you notice the rising cost of these flashback systems? And I wasn't even thinking about it. I was like, you know, to me, these things should only be like, you know, $50 used, not even. But no, he's right. I went on eBay and I started looking up the Intellivision Flashback over 130, 140. Some people are asking 220, depending on if the box has been opened or not. I'm thinking these are not really meant as collector's items. Like, I guess, like, because there's such a, you know, they came out in a limited run, or, well, somewhat of a limited run. It's not like you can just go into a Walmart right now and pick up a ColecoVision Flashback. You know, At Games created these things, most of them anyways. It says it right there on the package, actually, At Games. You know, and they, like, the Atari one I see is the only one that really seemed to every year have a new reissue. Whereas the poor ColecoVision one and the Intellivision one, I think they had like a deluxe run or something like that when they first came out, which was more money. But they literally just stopped making them. And so, in a sense, that makes it sort of collectible in that you can't just go into your local store and buy one. But does that mean they should be $140, $200? Why? Why would you pay $200 for a emulation device? I mean, it's cool. It's a cool factor. I get it. You know, it's ColecoVision. Now, obviously, there's a lot of differences between playing something like this and playing on a real ColecoVision. Controllers, for one. These controllers are very light. I found them very difficult to use. They were not as responsive as I liked it. They were too, the control stick on it was too wobbly, like too quick to move. And I couldn't play half the games. I just gave up. I was like, this is frustrating. The ColecoVision controllers are very stiff. They're very big and bulky, and they're stiff moving them. It's not like they wiggle really fast. And I found that this did that. And unfortunately, it's not compatible with the original controller, so you can't plug in an original controller and use it on your Flashback. I mean, minor detail, but the point is, I mean, these things were great for what they were, and I don't see how these things are quote-unquote nostalgia or retro. These things were meant to kind of bring back that feel of, you know, back in the day I played this. You know, if you want the real retro experience, you got to go back and get the original systems. You got to get the original controllers. You can't rely on this to be your retro. You know, I guess the word retro does kind of mean it's something of the days gone by, or bringing back that feeling of something that was old, but this is a new product. But I just don't see why these things in particular should be any more than $50. Now, I'm sure you could probably find them in local flea markets, garage sales, and stuff like that. The people who might have bought these things, you know, the Atari ones for sure, maybe just played them for a couple of seconds and then thought, wow, these games are bad. You know, we kind of, it's like in our brain, we think that they were better than they actually were. Probably because back in the 80s, this is what we had for video games. We didn't really have anything to compare them to. Whereas today we have Nintendo Switch, and we have PlayStation, and we have Xbox, and we have these games that can do crazy things, games on your phone. So now when we look at it, it's just kind of like, wow, the blocky graphics, my character is just a square. It might not appeal to your today personality. And so I'm sure a lot of people just flip them back out into the world. I don't want this anymore. Get rid of it. Not everybody wants to just buy these things and chunk them on their shelf. Which I saw what was happening with the NES ones anyways, was that people were just buying them literally just to put them on their shelf. Or they would buy it, play it once, go, that's cool, put it on their shelf. And of course there's reasons for that. The first reason is probably they have an original Nintendo. They probably have the original Nintendo, and they probably have all their games. So why not just play that? The other reason is all these games now could be played in so many ways. ROMs are a thing. Emulators are a thing. These are emulators themselves. They emulate the game. You could put an emulator on any kind of computer and play Nintendo games. You could put it on anything, and you could have even the Nintendo Switch. If you pay for that Nintendo online thing, they give you the ROMs now. like to play on the Switch. Obviously, you have to keep renewing every year, but and they have a limited amount of games. They don't give you the entire Nintendo library, obviously, but like I'm saying, there is so many ways to play these things. So oftentimes these things either end up on the shelf, not being played, or in a garage sale somewhere. But flipping them online and trying to make like $200, I don't get that, and I don't know why anybody would pay that. Frankly, I would rather go through the trouble of getting an old system hooked up, and it's not even that hard. Pretty much what I do when I play my Intellivision or my Atari or my ColecoVision is I use an old CRT TV. You probably see on some of my videos, I know it's crude, but I just put a camera in front of the CRT TV and film myself playing that game. And these TVs are not hard to come by. The one I'm playing on now, I literally got it off the curb. A neighbor across the street put it out on the curb with the controller and put a sign on it that said I work. So I ran over and grabbed it. I'm like, free TV. So I have two CRT TVs, which hook beautifully up to the you know, it all connects perfectly. Obviously, you need the coaxial thingy and or the switch box, the old switch box. But I mean, it just plugs in, and everything. The aspect ratio is perfect. Everything's fine the way it should be. It's not too hard to do that. You probably can just go online and get an original Intellivision and a ton of games for the same price you would spend on the Flashback, which is limited to what it can do. It is an emulation device. The controllers aren't perfect, and whatever games are on it, that's your games. You can't buy new games. So maybe it's not worth the $140, especially if you're just gonna buy it and put it on a shelf. I mean, I keep these boxes on my shelf just because they look cool, but I actually have the Flashback systems on my shelf over there that, you know, I look at them as a handy device that, hey, if I'm gonna go somewhere, I could just throw it in my luggage, take it with me, and if there's a TV there, I could play some Atari, I could play some Coleco. I actually did that on my not my last, I think it was my last vacation. I don't even remember now. It's foggy, COVID times. But you know, I remember going on vacation and I threw my ColecoVision Flashback in there and I hooked it up to the TV in the room, and I was playing ColecoVision. That was cool. Now, of course, we also have the Flashback. I had the box here somewhere. The Atari Flashback Portable, which is cool. I'd like to see more of those come out. Those make a little bit more sense. You pocket it, you put it in your pocket, you carry it around with you. I actually had one, and somehow it mysteriously vanished. It disappeared. I think my daughter was playing with it somewhere and left it somewhere. But then my good buddy Willie from Arcade USA stepped in and sent me a new one, which I have now, so I can actually still do that. I can carry that around. And if I want to play Atari on my own, you know, go somewhere and I can play Atari, I can do that. Those make sense, but these things, not. I mean, the experience is kind of like on the shelf on whether it's worth using them. Now, I know, okay, some people do mod them. I know that. The Atari Flashback 2 actually was real hardware. It wasn't emulation. And you can actually modify and put a cartridge slot in there. I don't see the point of that. I got Ataris. I mean, I got a lot of Ataris. I can play Atari anytime I want, so I don't need to buy a Flashback 2 and modify. That's just a project that's fun. Anyways, I think I've rambled on now for quite a while. I just wanted to talk about this because it's funny that this is still happening. This is, the time I'm recording this is 2022. And these things are on eBay for $200. It's ridiculous. Anyways, I'd like to hear what you have to say. Throw some comments down below. Are you into these things? Do you collect them? Do you buy them? Do you think they're crap, garbage, whatever? Always like to hear what you have to say. Anyways, hope you liked the video. Hope you subscribe. Talk to you later.